My name is Roman Mayambi, and this is my VSCO creator session. So I'm going to talk a little bit about myself. Um, so basically, how I got into photography. The story starts out my freshman year of college. I was on campus, and I remember seeing people walking on campus with like really nice outfits. I was seeing like people with like different hairstyles, and it just kind of grabbed my attention because I love people watching, and I wanted to basically figure out how to document what was happening. And I got the idea of like walking up to strangers and basically asking them if they were willing to let me take photos of them. And so basically I started doing that freshman year, and I think I did it for about a year and a half, almost two, I believe. And it got to a point where as I was doing that, I started to get more comfortable with like speaking to strangers and just got a little bit more confident as I went with it. Um, so basically how long I've been doing this for right now is now about 7 years. And I've been able to navigate and basically find like the style that I like. And as you can see in this photo right here, I do enjoy having a lot of vibrant colors and just making it a little bit more playful. And so this is a series that I started working on about last year. It's called Your Flowers. So this series basically is to highlight local creatives in my community. I thought it would just be nice because as a creative myself, sometimes like you make work, but sometimes you feel like there's no like recognition or just like appreciation for what you're making. So my goal was to reach out to artists in my community that I felt were making an impact in the art community. And so I was basically giving them flowers for paving this way for like younger generations of like artists to kind of follow through. And so I had these amazing artists. I just shared like my top three images, but I had about five, yeah, about five of them, like five people in total. And my goal is to honestly continue to work on the project and hopefully kind of like expand just like it's sort of like because I'm working with local artists right now in Cincinnati, but I definitely eventually want to expand and go, like different states and stuff like that. Because I feel like I'm always inspired by people who are not in my city, and I definitely want to also do that and just highlight their stories as well. And these are all just part of like my personal projects. And here as well, so basically what inspires me, I would say I'm very inspired. Like the main thing inspired me to start photography in the first place was fashion. And as a kid, I grew up watching a lot of movies. So just when it comes to lighting and just like composition, I feel like I got a lot of inspiration from cinema and anime as well. I enjoy watching anime, and that's why I feel like I get my inspiration as far as it comes to colors. I feel like anime is very vibrant, very outgoing, and I feel like I have like those elements kind of included in my work. Um, on the left side here, I did a portrait of my parents, which was really fun. I believe it was the first time like since I started like photography, like basically taking a portrait of my parents, and I feel like that was like a super exciting moment for me. So here, and then to continue on like personal projects, this is a project that I recently started working on, which is basically called the Athletes in Unconventional Spaces. Um, yeah, actually, I do have like I was featured in like the local newspaper for this project, which was really amazing. When I started it, honestly, I had no idea where I was going to go. But basically, what inspired this idea was I remember my dad and I were on a trip going to visit my brother in Dayton. And as we're on our way to there, I remember what like on the highway, and then below there was like this high school, and by the high school there was this like beautiful baseball like pitch, like with like tilled dirt, which was like super pretty. But I remember looking at it, I was like, oh my God, that looks so pretty. Like, what would I want to do in that setting as far as like when it comes to like photo shoot? And it took me about maybe a minute or so. And then I was like, oh, it would be so nice to see fighters like fighting on the dirt and like just like messing around. And the first idea was to like have like boxers do that. But I was like, oh, but that won't like really have the dirt. That won't really like raise the dirt as I wanted, like as I imagined it. So, and then the idea came, I was like, oh, maybe I'll get jujitsu fighters to like spar on that spot. And honestly, that's kind of how the idea came about. And then I did that shoot. I posted on my Instagram, and then people kind of recommended, different fighters and stuff. So I got two jujitsu fighters and then got them to like spar on the dirt. I posted the photos and everybody's reaction was just like very positive and like very encouraging. And at first it was almost like I created it as just like a one-off thing. I wasn't thinking about it as much. I was like, I'm just going to do this photo shoot. It's going to be fun. But reactions, like people were talking about it, and it inspired me to continue adding different sports to the shoot, which later turned into the series with athletes in the conventional spaces. So in the image right here, I got a cyclist in my friend's house to basically ride the bike like in the living room, and like we did a lot of different stuff, but this is one of my favorite ones. So I included that in here, and got some amazing boxes here in front of Cincinnati Museum, which is amazing. And then on the far right, we have one of the football team players here on the Bengals who loved the project and wanted to be a part of it. So I took him to a bowling alley, and then we had him like set up in front of there, which was amazing because the lights just like well set up and everything. Yeah, it's just been really awesome to reach out to these locations and, try to like put that together. I know it's like weird because I remember the first time I reached out to, I did another one where I had ballet dancers, and I wanted to shoot in the motel. So it's kind of weird reaching out to people before, like once when the project was first starting out. But as it went on, now I have references to send to people like, hey, I want to do something like this with you. So it's easier to get yeses now than before. And then this is more of the projects. So basically how I find my locations again is I never really like plan it out as perfect, honestly. Like sometimes it's just like either I'll be visiting a location, I'll be driving by, like for example, that baseball field I was talking about with my first shoot. I remember because I saw that like on my way to Dayton, but there was actually another baseball field right next to my house. So I'd always like driven by there and always wanted to use it for a shoot, but didn't really know what I wanted to. So when I saw the baseball field close to Dayton, I was like, oh, I can do this. So I had to like bring the fighters over where I live. And in this one, a client that I worked with had told me, like, I think it was about like a year ago, I told me like, oh, my brother owns a bookstore. And for some reason, as I was thinking about different athletes to put into like different situations, the idea to put the like track athletes, I was like, oh, I need to use a library. And so basically that's how I reached out to my the client that I worked with in the past, like, hey, can you connect me with your brother? And which they did, and we were able to do this shoot here. And then this is a church, an abandoned church that we used. I had a friend who had shot a video there. So I reached out to them and asked them, hey, where's that church? And then they got me in contact with the owners. And on the far right is fencers in the grocery store, which is like one of my favorite photos from the series. But there's a local grocery store here, and we didn't ask for permission. We just honestly sometimes I prefer like using a space and then either getting kicked out because like, most of the times like if you ask them, hey, can we have fences like doing this here, they would definitely say no. So we just went in and we just like I had them set up, and then they started fencing, and some people walk by and like really be interested and like stand over and like ask questions. Some people would just be super weirded out like what's going on. But I feel like it's fun because like you don't really see stuff like this, and some people are very intrigued and they'll stop and take photos and ask, "Oh, what is this about?" I'm just like, "Oh, it's a project that I'm working on." So it's just been really nice to see the project basically like grow into what it is today. But as far as location, like, do I find my location? It's always like random, honestly. Like, I could have seen the location maybe about like a year or two ago, and I'll just keep it in my mind. I'm like, okay, I'm going to use this one day, but I'm not really sure what I'll use it for. And then when the right idea comes, and I'll just like match it to that location. understanding client work. So I've been fortunate enough to get clients that reach out to me because of like the style of work that I do. I know it took me a while to kind of build up to that position where it's like, because most of the times I'll get clients like they reach out like, okay, this is what we want. Like they tell me the style that they want, which is like it kind of takes away. Personally, I feel like it kind of took away from like the excitement of like creating. Because it was almost like I had to split the two. Like, okay, this is client work and this is my personal work, and I wanted to have it be, like feel similar. And as I continue to like, do a lot of shoots, like improve on my craft, I was able to start attracting clients that were looking for what I was creating. So here, I did some grad photos in unconventional spaces. Basically, like, if you can see, the grocery store back here is the same grocery store that I use with the fencers. So this photo shoot came before the fencing one. So I guess I already was making stuff that was in line with like putting people in like places that usually like you wouldn't see them, especially for like grad students. Um, and Braden and Mish here, who are in the photo here, were very like excited because this was one of the first shoots that I did, and everybody's, oh my god, I love how you're like photographing like these graduation photos and not making them, your typical like grad photos. And so they reached out because of this, and then we came up with the idea of like, finding a grocery store and doing a shoot there. So that's how we ended up doing this, which was also like a super fun time. Now it kind of blends into a thing where it's like my art and client work is basically the same thing. It doesn't honestly feel like I'm working, which I'm very fortunate for. And see here's some more client work that like the clients reach out to me and basically say, hey, we love what you're doing. We love your style. So I basically come up with concepts and sometimes also style them as well. And yeah, as you can see here, we have like different moves. Like I love a lot of like vibrancy, and which brings me to talking about my favorite VSCO preset or my go-to preset, which is the FP8 Fuji Pro 800. The reason why I love this preset is because it fits well with what I do as far as it comes to like contrast and saturation. Honestly, like it was a little bit hard to pick a specific preset because I love a lot of like I feel like every shoot has a different feel to it. So and I use a lot of different presets for my photos, but this is the one that I've recently been obsessed with. So I'm talking about this one. But if I could, I could talk about all of them. Let's see here, and then we're going to talk about adapting to locations and lighting. I feel like this is something that I've had to learn as I started like doing photography, as where sometimes like clients will reach out with like they have locations in mind, and honestly sometimes you don't have the time to go and scout it and like look at it beforehand. So sometimes like some of the shoots are like last minute, like hey, something is due and we need this by this time. So you just end up being thrown into situations where you're getting into the location. Like that day is like the first day you're seeing the location, the light setup and all that stuff, and you just kind of have to be able to work with what you have. And I feel like with time, as I've been photographing and like working with different clients, I've been able to build that mindset of like, okay, whatever I'm walking into, I'll just make it work. And then it also goes to like when you're working with models, like I know it feels this is the thing, like if the person is uncomfortable, you can kind of tell, like it shows in the photos. So my main focus is always to get the models to feel comfortable in front of the camera, because you don't want it to show like the tenseness. Sometimes I have them like roll their shoulders and whatnot, but I feel like this skill also, as far as when I started doing photography, I feel like talking to strangers and asking them to take photos, I was able to learn that skill of making them feel comfortable first, like when I approach them. And I feel like it's translated into how I approach client work and how I work with people, just as far as it comes to making them feel comfortable and just like releasing that tension. Because I myself, honestly, I prefer being behind the camera, but whenever I'm in front of it, I feel a little tense and awkward. And I can, I can relate to that, like being in front of the camera and how how it can be a little bit intense. So I approach it with, kind of try to like calm the situation or make them feel more relaxed. And this is also one of my other favorite favorite shoots that we did. It was students here. There's this program called the DAP program. They're like in DAP fashion, and most of the times, like when they're done creating their garments and like outfits and clothes and stuff, they photograph them to show for their portfolio. So I had some of the students reach out, and that's how we came up with this look. And this was the first time I was in this like church. It's like a super like pretty church, and we just had to like set up the lights really nicely and just kind of work with what I had. And again, like it's also nice to have like a team who can also like pitch in ideas. And I feel like when I first started, I was going into most of this stuff solo. It was just me and my best friend. But as I've continued to work on my like photos and stuff like that, I've been able to have at least a small team around me that helps me like facilitate the shoots and point out some stuff. Because sometimes like you can be super zoned in into the shoot and not realize, or maybe the skirt or the dress or the garment is like maybe positioned a little bit weirdly. And so having people around, you'd be like, oh, hey, I noticed this. It just helps a lot. It just helps make the images look much better. And then, yeah, this is just more client work. Probably say the importance of experimenting. I feel, honestly, like I feel like I'm still learning as I'm going as well. So I always I don't want to end up in a place where I'm like, okay, I know what I'm doing. Like I'm comfortable here and I stay with that, like same style or same feel. My main goal as an artist, honestly, I push to try to experiment more as far as it comes with colors. And I think that's also why like I have clients reach out to me, because they see how far I'm able to push my creativity and like make it, I don't know, like make shoots more fun and like exciting, and like just I try to create stuff that I would want to see more of. And that's what pushes me honestly to focus on experimenting as far as it comes to like backdrops. Because she had sent me this like the outfit that she was gonna wear, and I was just like, okay, what can I like use to basically make it pop? And I feel like red was like the perfect color, just having that contrast in there. So I'm constantly always always looking to experiment with colors, lighting, and also just like providing advice on like maybe what I'd prefer, like what I would suggest basically to the client. Like, okay, maybe if we added this to your outfit, maybe if we took this out. So I'm trying to just like dabble in everything. And like I feel like as a photographer, I feel like for those watching, you can definitely relate. Like at first I started out just like, photographing the subjects. And as time went on, I found myself being a stylist, being like, you just kind of put on these many hats. And now I'm like, I feel comfortable when it comes to styling, set designing, and just like, there's just a lot of elements to it, which I really love. And it's just like, it all just comes in together. But yeah, I've done quite a lot of like client work where I'm super proud of, because it's just like it ends up being work that I already create. So it doesn't feel like work. It just feels like I'm just creating for myself. And I'm very fortunate for that. And that's it. That's all I had. Thank you so much for listening to my session. I hope I provided some valuable information. And thank you to VSCO and the team for letting me do this. Appreciate you all. Thank you so much.